Can you give us your take at this point? We heard from Senator Mitt Romney today saying he would go forward with a vote. They're having a caucus lunch, as I understand it, today of the Republicans. Is it a foregone conclusion?
I do think that with Romney on board officially now and publicly, very hard to stop the momentum of the Republicans in the Senate, that they will move forward. We don't know yet what the date of an actual vote may be. Of course, the time frame is pretty narrow. If the president makes a nomination on Saturday, you're talking, it would be amongst the quickest nomination votes in history. But it is possible, whether they do it before or after the election. I think they will do it by the end of the year without question.
Well, but if they do it after the election, doesn't it become even more difficult, if anything can be more difficult in this world? Because what if, and we don't know what will happen in the election, but what if, in fact, the Senate switches over to Democrat, who becomes effective January 2nd, as I understand it, so you'd have people voting on this who have lost their jobs. They just aren't out yet.
Absolutely. If you imagine the Republicans lose the Senate and potentially the White House, you would have people, as you mentioned, voting who will no longer have their jobs come early January. Constitutionally, of course, there's nothing to stop a lame duck Senate from voting, but politically it does make it that much more difficult for Republicans. I think the push will be to get this done before the election, if that's, of course, possible, because this is a process that takes some time. Even if you're talking about a nomination of somebody who's been recently vetted, it's still, it's not as time-consuming. They've met with many of the senators recently, but it still does take some time. Democrats can slow it up maybe by a week or so, but I think Republicans will want to get this done fairly quickly.
So this might be in the weeds, but although it may actually become important, talks about the Senate race out in Arizona and Mark Kelly, the former astronaut, who's running against Senator McSally. If he were to win, he actually could take his seat in the Senate before the new year.
Absolutely. So, and he is up in the polls. It looks like he could be the winner out there against McSally. And since this is a special election to finish, this was finishing McCain's term. Since this is a special election, he could, if he wins again, could be sworn in as soon as the results are officially certified. So if that was the case, you would have, imagine, Kelly would now be somebody on the Democratic side taking a vote away from Republicans on this thing. That could throw a monkey wrench into a vote if the vote doesn't occur until after the election. And again, there's a lot of ifs there. If he wins, of course, we don't know. And if the vote is certified quickly, with these elections in the midst of a pandemic, we don't know how quickly we will get a certification, but he will be the first Democrat, if he wins, to certainly take a seat in the Senate this year.
Jeanne, meanwhile, back at Congress, there are some other things they have to do besides worrying about the successor to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I mean, we have the stimulus bill we've heard about so much that has not gone anywhere, and we even have a continuing resolution to just keep the government going after the 1st of October.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a few small things on the table for the Senate. As many of these senators and all members of the House and a third of the Senate are trying to run for election or re-election. So all of these things happening. We did hear Nancy Pelosi over the weekend talk about the fact that there is still widespread support to keep the government open. So the CR, we imagine the CR will go forward and that they will agree on that. But, of course, really nothing is off the table at this point. Democrats want to slow this thing down, and so you can imagine there will be pressure on Democrats to do what they can. So I'm not sure, how this thing will pan out in terms of the continuing resolution. And, of course, we're in the midst of a pandemic. We still don't have a deal on that. So, a lot on the table as these people try to go off and run for re-election and, of course, deal with a nomination.
Okay.